Alright, we're going to have a look at some of the soft plastics that I've been talking about, putting the video up for. So here I've got some of the ones that I have assembled, so we can have a look at them and some of their uses. So we'll start down at this end. These are, as you can see, our curly tails. I've already got one out of the packet here. So that's your standard curly tail soft plastic. Now when you set it up right, she'll look like this, and as you retrieve, the tail flutters like that, and it's designed to give the impression of a distressed bait fish as you basically retrieve it. Now there's multiple ways of retrieving, obviously. As I mentioned in the worded version, you can either do it through a simple, with these ones you can let it sit and let the water do some of the work for you by allowing that tail just to move, or through what we call a hop and retrieve, which I'll go through in a little bit. That's what this style of plastic's mainly used for, and you can have a variety of colours. So like this one here is a they saw this a green prawn, not very bright. This one's nice green and red colour, and back we've even got a smaller, pure red, tiny looking, like wormy, more style grub that you might want to use from time to time. It can vary about what's biting. The next style up we have your paddle tails. Now I've got one out. As you see, these are some funny colours. Again, they come in all different sizes. These are 4-inch ones. I find 4 inches could target most of your species. This one I've already got pre-done from earlier. We'll talk about your jig heads in a minute, but just on the soft plastics now, the paddle tails, as you quite clearly see at the end, I'm doing this one-handed, you can see how the tail is. Now what happens is as you reel this in, and this is why the slow retrieve works best on this back tail, I'll do it from the front, you can see how it just flutters up and down like that. So as you begin a slow retrieve, that little tail just beats away like that, so it does the impression of some sort of distressed bait fish. This makes sort of vibrations in the water and attracts the fish towards your soft plastic, because presentation for these things is very important when it comes to working it. So you can see, look at the amount of movement you get out of that tail. So a nice retrieve will create that movement for you, and if you add some other methods to it, like your hop, making a few movements with your rod, creates more of an action with that tail. The next one's along, you get the other types. These look like a standard bait, and at the end you have, see how the tail is sort of split? These are more designed for if you're wanting to, once you've attached it on, you're doing a fast retrieve. And doing a lot of jerking. That's the best way to get those tails moving. Otherwise it doesn't do a great deal to attract your fish. So a fast retrieve is what you and a lot of erratic movement with your rod is going to be the best way that you get the most out of these soft plastics. They're the main styles that you're going to come across. There'll be variations, but it's generally your curly tail grub style ones on the side, paddle tails in the middle, the great styles, and these are the ones for your different types for your retrieval rates and the way you want to go about your style of fishing. Now over here I've got a couple of jig heads all set up, because the jig heads are really important. So we have different size, as you can see, different size hooks going from small all the way up to real large. I think this one's a 5.0. Down the end you have your 1.0 hooks. Now what you want to make sure is that you're using the lightest weight jig head as possible, and that is the most important aspect of it. You don't want to have to put a sinker in. You want to present these, because presentation is everything when it comes to soft plastics. So with the presentation, it's however you like, you can get it to still maintain the distance or get with the current or whatever the reason you might be needing. The last one is where you want to start, and then work up from there. So they're all different weights. These ones right down the end here, I think this one's a 0.118, and it goes up from there. You've got right up the very end, the real heavy ones. We've got a 3/4 right here at the end. That's really heavy, but obviously a big hook, so that'd be something you put on a big paddle tail, probably a lot bigger than the ones we have here. You can get up to six inches and stuff like that, where you'd be looking for something bigger, where you want to target a bigger species. Now, when you're using your soft plastics, it's important the scent will often wear off, because that's one of the aspects, and you want to get rid of a lot of that human scent that gets through you putting it on. You take away some of the scent. While it's in the water, the scent goes away. So I often use one of the products I use here is the Procure. You put that on your soft plastic, and it helps keep the scent and take away any sort of human scent as well. Another important aspect, I don't have it on the table here, I forgot to grab it out for you, but make sure you have a fluorocarbon leader that's attached to your braid. That's one of the other most important keys, is to make it so it's clear. The presentation, like I said, repeating multiple times because it is that important. Generally long is better. Long fluorocarbon leader to braid, and as light a braid for whatever you're targeting is best. And that way you're going to get the best chance of hooking up with a soft plastic, which seems to generally work. So braid to fluorocarbon, and then the setup. Now the setup is really important when you're putting your soft plastic on. Now this one isn't the best example, I've got to redo this one. But when you're attaching this, there are multiple ways of doing it. Now if I could use my two hands, I'd take this off and demonstrate it for you. But what you want to try and aim for is to have the head of the jig, which are the circle here, and your hook, everything all in a straight line, lined up across the top here, so that when you're pulling it across with your retrieve, it's going in a straight line as it would normally swim. It's not moving around or wobbling in the incorrect position where it's off-putting to the fish, and that it is connected all the way to the actual jig head itself. You don't want it sitting back off this. I hope I don't hurt myself. Sitting off the jig head. You don't want it sitting too far up. This one here I have slightly too far up, as far as the hook probably should have come out around about there, because you see a slight bulge underneath. I mean, it's not a huge issue, but like I said, presentation's a big deal, so it's best to mark out where you want your hook to come out, so you place it up. So if I grab one of my hooks over here and I wanted to put it on, we'll get rid of this one out of the way. We wanted to put it on, say, one of these. You might say, I place your jig head against your soft plastic, and you see roughly where you want your hook to come out, so you can make a mark where you want the hook to come out, and then when you feed your hook in through the front, and when it gets to the spot, then you know when to turn it around and push it up, so you end up with it presented like that. That's the general way. There's a couple other ways of presenting your jigs or your hooks. Some people use ones where the actual hook's inside of the actual soft plastic. I'll put a picture up that shows variations of how to attach your jig to your soft plastic, but most of the time you're generally going to see them like that. So the only last thing I really want to cover is when we're looking at the types of retrieving. Now with as I mentioned, with the paddle tails, a steady slow retrieve can be enough just to get the action moving and provide what you want with your grubs. What you want to do is try what we call hopping, and I'll do a demo of this with an actual rod in a separate video so you guys can see it in action. What you want to have happen is once you cast out, you take up some of the slack. You take up the slack so you got a slight tension so you can feel the soft plastic, and then you do a hop, which is basically you lift your rod from being level, say with the sea, up to about say a 60-degree angle. So that lifts it roughly like depending on how high you lift it up, it should be a not a yank but a fair movement to get the bait to come off the ground, and then stop and allow it to sink back down. At the same time you do a few winds and take up some of that slack, and we call it hop because once you lift it up, she let it, as it sinks back down, you slowly retrieve it a little bit in and she moves a little bit more, and you'll find more often than not the fish will strike as the plastic then begins its sink again. The idea is this hopping action imitates an injured bait fish, particularly with this tail movement. So you've got the bait going, swimming along, you got the hop, and then she's sinking down, and then with a bit of movement, and then up again. And you basically repeat the process until you get it all the way in, and recast again, or hopefully you hook up. So they are your three main styles. These are the different type of jig heads, all with different weightings. Go for the slightest weight that you can to get what you need done, and go up in weights as you need, and experiment in the different types of ways of retrieval to find what works, because some days this one might work and then other days it won't, and this will work. And also colours. Some people find bright colours like this. You can see it's beautiful gold colour with speckles all through it, shiny. There we have the other one here, it's all silver and shiny. So sometimes colours, these sort of colours can attract one fish, not attract another. Same with this very plain colour, but I've actually got quite a few bites just on the plain coloured one, so it's interesting. And same with the red, a lot of people hook up with the red small worm style. But yeah, bright colours have found to be very effective. But remember, add in some sand stuff to get rid of any stuff that you have on your hands. Keep them rescented after throwing them out a few times. You'd be surprised at how effective they can be if you use correctly. Of course, any questions, just post it on the comments and I'll try and clarify anything I can that I haven't mentioned, because I might have forgotten things as I've gone through this. So always pick the size of your hook to match up with whatever you're targeting, and the size of your baits. They range from anywhere from, like you see, 2 inch, 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches, 4s. I've got 6 and 7s over there as well. So, and all the hooks to manage. So you can pretty much target whatever you're looking for. That's pretty much, the core basics of soft plastics, and I find they work quite well, and very reusable, and you don't have to keep rehooking your same hooks over and over again every time you cast out. And it's a different variation on lures, and I will actually do a short video where I'll go into the Berkeley lure that goes with some of these soft plastics as well as a separate one. So I'll tune out for now and come back shortly.